Hey everyone, welcome to this video about the garden planting table that you see in this time lapse that my wife is using. This process was not pre-planned, and so what this video is it's just going to be very similar to the log storage video that I also have on this channel, where I'm just discussing what I'm doing and the thoughts and trials and tribulations of trying to find screws that you could have sworn you had in your garage but can't find them in the moment. So if that sounds like something of interest to you, I hope you really enjoy this video. It was a lot of fun building this thing. We've gotten a bunch of use out of it. We built it about 3 months ago and it's turned out really well, so some of you might find this useful. If not, just hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the side patio, everybody. We are going to be building a planting garden workbench, moving bench, I don't know, storage bench. We're going to be building a little bit of everything. So this side patio is really gorgeous. It's south facing. The ferns aren't doing great right now. We've been neglecting watering them, sadly, but my wife loves to plant out here. Bags of compost and some planting soil. And really it always creates a mess. You know, I just cleaned it up so it looks a little bit nicer here. We also have some wood storage that needs to get filled up. So we're gonna build a rolling worktop bench thing. Hopefully that'll sit below this. So this is about 3'3.5" to that. And then she requested something about as long as this, which I'm not sure what that is. We go in here. About as long as this, which it's about what, 6'8" almost, so a little bit less than 7 feet. I'll probably make it about 6 feet. And then the depth will probably be somewhere around this as well. I really would like to be able to still get it through here. This door, and if we look at the door, we have a cart that we fill, but this door is about, let's see, I think we need to keep it probably about 2 feet wide, 2'2" at the most. Yeah, 2'2" is going to be the depth that we want. So anyway, so that's what we're going to be building. I don't know, I figure if people might want to, it's similar to what I did for that storage shed that's actually down there, holding up quite well. I'm just going to build something, you know, nothing that requires any really new wood. I will use a couple of new wood pieces into it just because I have them, but I'm going to avoid once again going to Home Depot for this. We just finished up a huge project, so we got some random boards and everything. So yeah, stay tuned if you want to watch. Yeah, so fun story. First video I took where I was talking about what was going on, I ended up accidentally setting it to slow motion. So basically what I was doing here is just trying to figure out and kind of catalog a little bit about what kind of wood I have. If you look in the background, this is sadly what my garage looked like after a really large major project we had just kind of finished that took over a year. So we had a ton of wood just laying around, and in particular these old boards. You can see the one, you know, leaning up against the scaffolding on the right there. We recently you know, had a tree hit our house and had to basically get a completely new roof, and our house is a very old, you know, 1890s. It's probably 130 years old at this point. So when they, you know, took off the other roof, basically exposed a bunch of these old boards that, you know, the gaps and kind of everything, just some spots just weren't great. And so what we ended up doing is having the roofers rip off some of the old boards, replace it with, you know, plywood so that they had something better to nail to in certain spots. So it wasn't everywhere, it was just these certain spots, and they had actually ended up throwing a bunch of these old boards in, you know, in the trash. They were just going to trash them, so I went dumpster diving, pulled a ton of them out. of course, none of them were, a square or, cut off 90 or anything like that. So been slowly trying to kind of catalog a lot of this wood. Not really catalog, just kind of clean it up, just put it off to the side so that I could use it for a project. And what I was realizing is, there's just too much wood actually, that I don't have a large garage, and it was just starting to take up so much space that that's really where this project kind of came from, was just an ideal situation of making something that we kind of need, but also using up and recycling all this old wood into something beautiful. We also had these, random little fence boards that we were using for wood storage. So just trying to really understand what we have and what we can use. And these fence boards, they're super lightweight, but I kind of ran into a problem here where I wanted to use them for the depth of it, to kind of have a little bit of space and use them as part of basically the not the workspace, but the storage underneath. But I was running into a little bit of an issue because some of them already had the 45-degree chop at the top, and then some, because they were all left over, a lot of them were all just kind of different sizes. So what I was trying to figure out here is just kind of basically how deep I can make it, whether that's limited by the boards. It's one of those projects where you just kind of have to figure the design into the pieces. The other piece that I wanted to use were these old casters. The old casters were from a cart. They just work terribly. They're not good casters, but I wanted to use them up. I don't want them to end up in the trash. A table that's not going to be moved around too much is kind of the perfect application for them. So what I ended up doing is just basically from here started cutting up the fence posts to the depth that I thought I needed. Kind of just was one of those moments just to kind of, let's just take a deep dive into it and let it determine the depth of the thing, and kind of go from there. And so it really just became a little bit about just starting to lay it out, see what other nuts and bolts and stuff I have. Didn't have a lot, it was just trying to basically go through all these leftover pieces, which I'll talk more about later, and just trying to understand how I could kind of create the skirting around the bottom and go from there. So I decided to split each of them so that it's equal on either side. That way no one wheel technically should be stronger than the other. I think I'm also just going to do essentially these connectors for the inside. Just keep it simple and do all the same on the inside. That should be less stress, I think. Anyway, I'll try to find more. I don't have more washers, actually. I know that I don't, so not sure what I'm going to do about that yet. Kind of funny to actually just use a nut as a washer. Huh. Use a nut as a washer. No, alright, so I'm just trying to keep it simple, so I'm going to just kind of go for it. I decided to set everything in. So what I'm doing is, this is actually going to be the outside bar. It's going to be the longest bar. Then we're going to have another piece coming across here, not, essentially like this, going across. And what that does is this is going to be now inset to where I can do actual structural bars like this, as well as like this, lapping over. Then I can take a nicer piece and face the whole thing. That should dress it up a little bit. It loses a little bit in terms of this, but then I'll be able to put nice boards going across it without worrying about the structure there. So I think this works. I'm going to just kind of just keep going for it. I'm not sure how wide it's going to be yet. That's why I haven't cut like essentially this piece is the leftover. But what I also did is I have all these cut down. Just basically cut them down to the longest length that I had. It's, as you can see, it's going to be a little bit short of the full length. So I think what I'm going to probably do is put another full length piece back there, and then use one of the long ones I didn't cut to do actually a back piece, because that was one of the requests, was back piece, and then I'll put a side piece so that it kind of has almost like a little backsplash essentially. I think if these are each basically about a foot, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet across, which would work out pretty well. Hopefully that's big enough. We'll see. And then I can attach these guys and these guys. So I'm going to just go ahead and turn this time lapse back on and keep going for it. All right, so installing these structural screws, and really I don't need the washers at all. I installed this one in the center, and I didn't think I'd need to drill it. You can see it did crack it a little bit. This is pretty soft wood still. It's, you know, very fresh. But I just drilled them, and, you know, because I drilled them in the corners, actually forgot to do that one, drilled them in the corners, I'm not going to need the washer really, or it's not going to be doing that much, because the whole entire screw will be basically held to the edge, essentially. I'm still going to use one, but then I'll have to figure out if this is an issue and how to solve that later. I don't think it will be. I guess it will be, but I'm going to probably just honestly drill out the next thing, or I'll do sleepers to raise it up, or I'll do something where I might honestly just even chop these off and chop off this a little bit, but we'll see. All right, so what I'm doing here is I took a oversized, what is this, 3/8 inch. I wish I had a 1/2 inch, but I don't know where it is at the moment. I'm not going to dig it out. Set the depth to basically go in a good almost half. Reason being is I'm reusing these guys. You can actually see, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but they actually have been previously used. These are all stuff I pulled out of other spots for things, but obviously they're not long enough. So by giving it that extra little oomph, we're gonna basically push it in all the way. Essentially, if I were to get it right where it stops, which is right here, that's exactly all I need. This isn't really meant to be structural. I'm going to be actually tying these together in a different way, but it's doing a decent amount of structure. What it is doing, what more importantly it's doing, which has happened to me before, it's making sure I don't use these pieces for anything else. It's keeping the alignment. It's also making sure I set these guys up on the right side already, because there is a correct side. This would be wrong to put it on the other side. Essentially, I'm just using it as kind of a way to make sure I don't make any other stupid mistakes with these pieces of wood. And generally, when I'm doing this, I just like to use up things as I cut them. You know, I don't know what other way to say it, but it just makes sure that, you know, I don't get overwhelmed with too many pieces and all that stuff. I'm just using another piece just to set basically the general location of this. And if you haven't made yourself a table like this yet with gaps in it, it is super helpful for situations like this where, you know, you can still put it down on the table and have it be flush and still use it without needing to worry, you know, essentially lifting it up. Because I used to be in the situation where I would do this then with multiple pieces. It's just annoying. So this is going to be the right or left side. And then this is going to be the other side. So it'll be like that. and then we're going to basically do a board across. So I think we just make a decision and say we're going to make it 6 feet wide. Although I could do 7 feet, I think, because I do have that. So let's see. All right. I have to figure out how long it's going to be now, which I think it should be 7 feet, but I don't think that works really well with what I have in terms of these boards. These boards are, yeah, these boards aren't even 6 feet. I guess, fuck it, let's make it 7 feet and go from there, I guess. It's weird to be building the base before building the verticals, because I haven't even figured out how I'm going to do the verticals. So, So I don't have any like 4x4s that would be really good for verticals. I've got 2x4s, and I guess I'll just do 2x4s, 2 of them together. But I'm gonna run out of those pretty quickly because I don't really have that many of them. This is like this. I'll have a platform. That's good. We do the board, we can do the board off this going vertical. That kind of works, I guess. It's not the best because it would be best if it was connected. You know what? I have some hardware somewhere around here. There we go. Alright, so okay, so I've got a hardware. These might come in handy. And I got hangers. These are 2x4s? 2x6s. 2x6s. And I've got a bunch of these. Okay. It's good to know that I have all that. And then I do, my neighbor, very kind, dropped off some of these old things. Which, I wonder if I could be fancy and use these in a fancy way. Like, oh, this is, oh, you know what? I think these are for wood storage, I think. Because you put a piece across, and then you put a vertical in here. Can we use these? This is interesting. You know what I kind of want to do? I kind of want to use these as like a pull-out drawer. That'd be kind of cool. I have 4 of them. Where I have more 2x4 straps to play with. Whatever. So I don't actually have what I need. So these are 2x4s together, which would work well for this. Because then I could just use these holes that are there to hold everything up. Here's 2x6s. So I'm getting overwhelmed a little bit with these decisions. So when you get overwhelmed, you reduce it back down to what you know. I know I'm going to cut this a certain length. I think what I should do is just cut it. If I cut it at 6 feet, I'll get about 6'6" because I'm going to be adding here. So 6 foot, and it's a 10-foot long piece. So 4 foot. So 4 foot would still potentially work for the verticals because I can't be higher than 3'3" max height. So maybe I do 7'6". Let's do, 6'6". Let's do 6'6". Tell you what, I love projects that don't require precision. You know, even if this is like 6'5" underneath, who cares? It's not gonna affect the room. It's just gonna make the width a little bit different. All right. And in typical fashion, I've got too much shit on this board already, which is what I normally always manage to do because I haven't cleaned anything up ever. Alright. So, let's get these out of the way. Yeah, so I think if I end up using these, where are you guys? If I end up using these, pretty sure they sell these on like Etsy or something, or Home Depot actually does this. Firewood, like no fastener storages. All right, let's see if we can get this to work for us. Well, cleanest this has ever been. Same shit. Cool. All right. Realize that I'm showing more knee than chest there. So all right, so this is a temporary piece just to hold it up. Like I said, these are not going to be structural, so I'm going to lap over another board. So essentially there's going to be a 2x4 right here that laps this. These will both be into it from the, I guess, tops of the underside right now. And then these go spin freely. So that's going to be the idea of it. I'm going to put cross bracing in eventually. I did something which I didn't really mention. I forgot to do it on this side, but I did it on this side. I chose two pieces with a slight camber to them, and then I was planning on flipping them both over. I only flipped one of them over. I actually would like to maybe redo this one, so I flip it, which I think I'm going to, yeah, because it makes more sense, and there's a reason why I did it. But basically, you know, the idea being that if it's going like this, then when I flip it over, all the weight's going to be pushing it and flattening it out. And these, you'll see, these don't look pretty. Oops, looking over everything. These don't look pretty. I have had the thought, you know, I'm going to either do one of two things. I'm either going to knock in a dowel in here, which I'll probably do, just glue it in there and then chop it off, and then basically it's plugged. Or I'll just put sealant in there if I'm not planning on it being exposed. I actually don't mind the way that dowels look. I think it looks nice. So I might, if I'm leaving it exposed, I'll probably do this. That way carpenter bees and ants and stuff won't get in there. Which more and more I'm kind of feeling like I might leave it exposed just because of that. Because I want to showcase that. But we'll see how much wood I have, because I am sadly, if you can see in the corner there, I am pulling from all that wood. And that long piece right there. That's what I'm trying to kind of get rid of, essentially. So part of the thing, which I didn't really kind of say, but part of the thing for this project is I don't want to be efficient. I'm trying to use up as much wood as possible. That's why I am lapping things over. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to fix this and then go ahead and cut the other pieces and frame out the top so that it all is together. Bugs are going to start to come out in about an hour, so I might end up calling it there. We'll see. Okay, so my wife just came out. She's the one I'm doing this for, and yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I was going to use these for the top bench with a gap like that, essentially, so that she could put dirt through it. You know, if spilt, but I think she was like, well, that defeats the whole purpose of it. So she either wants it to be like this, which I don't really like the way that looks. And, you know, these are so badly like warped. It's just not going to be a comfortable surface. That I think I'm going to still do the open, but for the bottom, you can even open them up even a little bit more then. I still can use these for the backsplash. I think I have enough. But what I'll probably do then is I will look to try to use all of the little tiny pieces that I have. I still think I can go this way with them, and I'll just almost assemble it like a antique wood floor, I think. So I think that's what I'm gonna plan on doing. You know, essentially I'll just trim a bunch of these down, try to square them up as much as possible. I don't have a joiner, unfortunately, and I don't have a planer, so I can't really make them all perfect. Maybe I'll get a planer for this. Good excuse to buy one, I guess. But that's gonna be, that throws a little bit of a riff in my plan. So I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna try to figure out a way to, you know, one of the things I don't like about this already is I wish I would have put a little bit more of a toe kick on here, so you can get your toes underneath there. I guess you can't see that. You can see it right there. Yeah, so you can get your toes under here if you're like working or whatever, but it would have been nice to set this board back just like another ½ inch or an inch, which I guess I could have done, figure that out. So now that I'm going to be putting these here, I guess I could do that. That's weird though. I'd rather have either a gap there or an overhang, but I don't want them to overhang because this is already the full depth. So I think I'm going to put a gap there. Put a gap there. How the fuck do we do this? This would be a perfect time to have like a bunch of window tubes. This. Yeah, alright, I'm actually excited for that now. I also need to figure out the fucking verticals. Which I don't have enough wood, so I'm definitely gonna have to go buy some wood, which sucks. Really wanted to do that. I'm gonna use finishing wood for this. So I think what makes the most sense is maybe building a box out like this around these things, so then that way that's all done. And then I can build, because if that's all connected, that's actually not bad. If I were to do that, because I'll have the little ledge there, so I'll be able to do one of these off of the ledge, so that'll support that edge. That'd be nice. But I'm not even using that, am I? So if I do that, Alright, so what I'm trying to figure out is right here on the corner. Let's go down a little bit more. So I want these to probably be up a little. I know it's going to probably increase bugs and stuff like that, but aesthetically I don't like that. I'd rather it be, you know, I don't have a piece, but something like that. That makes it a little bit more, you know, just aesthetically like pleasing. But for the edges, what should I do? Because I basically don't have enough wood at this point, so I'm going to have to go get something. So do I just go get a 2x4 or 4x4? Or do I figure out a way to do... Maybe I just do this. Maybe I just do something like this. Where are those bars? I do love the idea of doing a drawer. That would be incredibly crazy to actually be able to pull off a drawer. I don't think that's possible, but if we were to do that, and then we do the 2x6s this way. What do we think about that, team? Huh? The thing I don't like about this is threefold. But I have to fill that gap right there. There's a gap in there. You can see that. It also doesn't put this any higher than the actual board. So the drawer's on top right now. So this whole thing needs to flip if we want the drawer. But if we were to do this, let's just pretend like we do that. I feel like the drawer has to be something separate that I do, if I do it at all. And maybe instead I just kind of use those other pieces to kind of do it like this. I could just do it like this. I should actually probably do it like this. Although, how am I going to do the backsplash then? I do one or two, because then I could do one of those here. If I do this like this, I could just do one or two across. So I'd basically do this. Yeah. And then I would put this down here. Probably do this with another one across. Okay. I'm kind of at the let's say fuck it and go for it stage. What do we want to do with so many of these boards? These are all trim boards. And they're all the same thickness. Do we have any? Well, we got two long ones right up there, so let's do two long ones across the whole thing. If we do that, this thing's gonna become real heavy real quick. All right, I'm getting eaten out, but I'm gonna put on time lapse and try to keep going. All right, crew. Decided to take the plunge and buy about $50 more worth of wood. Took this little guy with me. Got a later start today because his stomach wasn't feeling good, so had to make sure he was doing all right. I think I overshot it like I normally do. I mean, this is $50 worth, so it's not that much, but the 2x6s actually I'm going to use on something else. It was just kind of good. I think I only need about 6 of these 2x4s, so the 2 extra are just to make sure I don't have to go back. But we're gonna go get started. I'm gonna put him on a little lead and keep him by the garage over there. So we'll see what happens. Okay. So don't have a really great solution for connecting the columns to this platform base. This base isn't done yet, so it'll still have, I think I might just put like one piece underneath in the middle just to kind of hold this depth for twisting wood and stuff. There is going to be the other pieces going across here that'll kind of do that as well, but you know, maybe a vertical one on the underneath there. So I cut all these columns, and columns is a very loose word, and I'm going to use these guys. So I just set that to be basically a 2x6, and what I'm planning on doing is having them with the bracket facing out, essentially kind of like right there, so that then the 2x6, which are cut right here, that 2x6 can go across all the way full length. Now I don't understand what I'm going to do for the face of it and everything. And I'm not sure if these are going to get painted. I think I might paint them. So, I mean, the issue is obviously it would be better if, like, you know, this was slotted down or connected more vertically to something. But I'm thinking what I do instead is I just kind of make a little bit easier to draw. I think what I'm going to do is just make essentially, you know, if this is here and then we've got the little bracket which is holding this, so then that's a vertical, so we can kind of see that's how that would be, like that. So I'm thinking about just basically this kind of box right here in elevation. You know, it's going to have essentially these pieces bolted down into the thing. Then I think what I'll do is I might do like a nice kind of cross or something here, with then one board going across the top with then another board on the other side. That way it kind of makes a nice little pinwheel design on the sides, because then essentially we'll have the platform like this. This will be then covered, and then we'll have the bottom boards. Maybe I'll just do the X. I think just the X. I won't do this and this. I'll just do something, just the X for stability reasons. Because then I think if we tie, you know, because basically the issue that I'm running into is obviously that joint will be really, really weak. So then if I do something like that, that's going to tie this piece with this piece, which then this piece doesn't matter as much, especially if I do this, then lock them together. So I think that's what I'm going to do, just to kind of solve the situation that I'm in. Yeah, I guess the only thing I'm trying to think is how far in I want to have these kind of insets. So if I've got this piece essentially right there on here, do I want it to be lapping a little bit? You know, like that little lapped face. Because in cases if I do, whatever that lapped face is should be the inset at the bottom. Because then that would give me enough space to do the X on the outside, which would be pretty cool. In which case I could actually do something similar. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. I'm going to give it about 1 inch on the side, and then I'm going to do some sort of design on the outsides. All right, I'm just going to set up the time lapse, keep going. It'll probably be something that I have to figure out while I do this. And all right, so here we go. So I flipped it over. I added these little, I don't know, call them like kickstands or something. So the one negative about using these swivels, if it were, I should probably used you know, rigid casters or whatever. Because if it was locked rigid right here, the center would be right here, which is, you know, probably about 3.5 inches or so inside. But when it gets turned around, it kicks it all the way back to here, which is like, you know, 5 or 6 inches. Which, especially if this one's rotated around in the wrong direction, the whole entire thing can get really like wobbly. I don't ever anticipate it falling backwards being an issue, since you'll be working on the front. But, you know, say you put a really heavy pot here, you push down on it or something. These I set to be about 1/2 inch lower than this. So worst case scenario, what's going to happen is these all will catch on the ground. I don't think it'll be an issue for uneven floor. It definitely will be in here, which I'm not looking forward to, so I might have to prop the whole thing up. But in my head, that makes sense. You know, I could add a little piece of skirting across it, just to dress it up a little bit, which maybe I will actually, now that I think about that. So this is the bottom. I put a little piece. This just holds this kind of solid. You know, the bottom, my wife said it, I don't know if you can see over there, we've got a ton of pots and planting and all this stuff that is going to go on the bottom. There's going to be a lot of weight on the bottom of this, holding it down, which is good for, you know, the whole issue, but tipping issue, I should say. But it's not good when, you know, you've got these flimsy, where are they? These flimsy deck panels. Fence panels. That's what these are meant to be, is really cheap fence panels. You can kind of hear how they're incredibly light and not very strong. So I'm a little bit worried about them. So I am obviously, my wife knows me to over-engineer everything, so I'm trying not to over-engineer it. But even if I just go like this, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to put another piece across the middle, just to cut this distance in half, because there's easily enough room here, and I don't even know if I'll do it this way, because I could easily just put another 2x4 straight across there. That wouldn't be that bad. What do we got here? So if we were to essentially put another piece like this going across, that is not at the right height for this, because we need to be on the face of the other one. So then I'd have to put a flat piece on top of it across the whole thing. Which I don't really like laminating that much wood. That's going to be a lot of weight just for little gain. Yeah. Maybe instead of doing the full length, I just do one right here. I can cut it in half this way, and then I'll lay one flat across there. That'll save a little bit of wood. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. And then I'll probably do the same thing. I might just put another 2x4 or 2x6. Another 2x6, sorry, or 2x4. And my dog is forgetting that we live next to other people, as little dogs do. Yeah, all right, let's do that. Because this I'm also going to be doing like that. I'm lining up with the front, right? Or did I make this too wide, too deep? 22.5 is the max. Wait. Oh, 2 foot 2.5. Okay, so I'm supposed to do the 1/2 inch overhang still, but this does not have a 1/2 inch overhang. Good. All right, I'm gonna just keep working. Alrighty, so decided to just go for it, put these in. These actually ended up being a little bit more annoying than I thought they would be. I just decided to leave it open. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll do something covering it. I don't think that's kind of the intent of this, though, being obviously a garden cart. Gave it just a little bit of a lip right here off of all the fronts, and just basically accomplished that by using a piece of old leftover trim, aligning with the back here. This kind of, you know, realistically, I think it is providing just a little bit of rigidity here, but to be honest, the 2x6s, which haven't even finished installing them really, they themselves are actually, you know, creating a rigid frame itself. I think that this is going to be a strong enough joint where, as long as it's cured down here, which it looks like it is, I should be okay. But once again, I'm going to probably do more angles on the sides here to do that. Just like a 1/2 inch gap here. Nothing too fancy. I was going to do it all straight across, but decided against that just for the fact of, I don't know, wood swelling, I would say, but realistically, I don't know. I just think that this looks a little bit nicer. Maybe might be a little bit more, you know, bugs and whatnot, but that's neither here nor there. Who cares? I don't know if you noticed. So I'm using basically just like cabinet screws. These are the leftovers from what I have, and interior wood screws. If I were doing it, you know, from the start, I'd use something more like the exterior screws, or you know, some sort of galvanized connector screw, even like the, you know, the structural screws. And obviously, you know, using wood, pressure treated, or at least painting it or something. But this is going to be underneath the outside. It might see, you know, some snow every once in a while, but I'm not worried about really, you know, this. I think worst case scenario, they tarnish and they rust a little bit, and adds a little bit of character. So now I got to start to think about this top. You know, weight-wise, it's starting to get up there in weight too. So so I measured this garden cart. This garden cart normally barely fits in the door, and this is about 1 inch wider than the garden cart. So I'm really hoping I can get this through the door. If not, I'm gonna have to raise it over the ledge. But we'll see. Somebody else, if you guys are making one of these, can, you know, and obviously, I think the way, you know, you normally do decks and stuff is you just do all these long, and then you'd run like a circular saw along it. It's, you know, some of these were already cut. I have this one which I might use for like side pieces. We'll see. Oh, I have another one right there actually. It's partially cut, I think. So as I'm starting to think about this top, I think something like this is going to be beautiful. I think this is what my wife will want, is these nice beautiful old boards just kind of smushed up against each other. I don't have a joiner, and I don't have a router. I don't have a planer either, so I think, you know, this would be more practical. This side, it's flat. This is the kind of more aesthetic side, which I think is more beautiful. The rougher side. I think she would want this side up. So what I might do is I might temporarily install it, and then I can always flip it if I need. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just try to find the widest boards I can that make this length. Now, I am not loving the depth here, so I'm going to put another 2x6 in here. Probably put it in with even a hanger, and might just put in one brace just across, just to keep it kind of straight. I'd use this piece, but you know, being Home Depot, it's already, I don't know if you can see that, but it's already quite twisted. So probably use the other one from the truck over there. And then this thing's gonna be pretty much done. I'm not gonna do too much more to it. I actually might not even do these sides, because I don't know, maybe the airflow will be nice. I'll let my wife tell me if she wants that done, and I'll go from there. But I obviously will put some more screws in here. I might even just throw one through here, because these aren't too deep, so they're gonna only be biting a little bit there. Yeah, all right, I'm gonna go get more water and keep going. Right, probably gonna call it a day here. So quite happy with these boards. So I'll have to figure out, you know, maybe either putting this one on the end like that, something like that, which I don't really like. I think I'll just try to rip it flat, but this is gonna look, you know, quite beautiful. So these are all boards that were originally on the house. I don't think originally, you know, we had a the roof was popped up in about the 40s or the 50s. So these boards are probably about 80 years old. So not 130 like the house's age, but they've got the scars of a good life. And I think that they're going to look absolutely beautiful. I think this side makes the most sense, and I will sand it down so that it doesn't hurt. This side would also look really beautiful too, but the rougher texture on this side of the cut, I think I like a little bit better. But I'll ask my wife's opinion on that. Got a couple of long boards, so I'm thinking one of those will just basically be used as like the back splash essentially, so it'll be something like that. And then I'll probably also do a skirting around the front of these at least. Probably won't have enough to like really skirt the columns and the base there, but I think it's fine because I think it might look like it's an older table that's been kind of like lifted up and restructured almost. So I think that's the plan. Yeah, it's hard to see in this light, but it really is some beautiful wood, and if this comes together nicely, I think this will work exactly what we want. And then I've got a couple of more pieces over here, so I'm gonna still just kind of be trying to get. So this is really the main one of the main things of this project is to get rid of all this wood. Obviously I used up those fence pieces, a little piece of trim in the back. I'll probably use up some more of this this trim that we took off of the house, salvaged, maybe for the sides and the bottom, and boxing it out and maybe doing that, the sides. Maybe we'll also just paint this whole thing besides basically the top. That'd be probably, like a dark green we've got elsewhere on the house. So we'll see. I'm gonna, this is like a game of Tetris to try to get everything back in here at the end of the day. So I'm gonna work on that now and call it a day. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start the last day of this. Funny enough, wife asked why I wasn't using the nice wood on the top. Differing of opinions, I suppose. I just really love the way the saw marks here. You can see it. It's got character, got a life to it. It is a little bit impractical in terms of the top surface because you want to be able to wipe it off with a glove, and your glove would get caught on all the things. This side makes a hell of a lot more sense, but so most likely I will be using the non-rough side, which is is what it is. A little bit of a bummer, but gotta do what you gotta do. Some of the boards I'm not going to be able to use just because of the stuff that's still on them, unless I have to try to get like the tar paper off and stuff. This board itself just happened to be 22.5 inches, or sorry, 2 foot 2.5 inches deep, pretty much. I got to clean up the one side of it, but if I line it up on the back side there, it gives me a little bit of an overhang, which is good because I'm gonna skirt it, which then gives you still a little bit more. It'd be nicer if it was a little bit longer, perhaps like right there. So I think, I'd rather have it line up on the back here. So yeah, I think it is what it is. I'll probably go with them all a little bit shorter. Maybe I'll do a little bit of varying, but it really would be nice to have it. But then what do you do here? Because if we have some sort of, not this, but you know what, I guess we could do that. Could do this across the front like that. Then how do I attach that? Then I need to put separate verticals there, because I was planning on just kind of lapping the face like that and then putting the other one. But if we were to do this, the board can be smaller. Maybe we'll do that. And then, yeah, I can just do vertical pieces here, similar to what almost I did with the toe kick, but let's do that. Why not? So maybe this will be the depth I do, and if it doesn't work out, I can always still just, this isn't great, but it still works for the overhang. So I'm going to just kind of get back to it. Okay, so cut everything down. Could run it's obviously not all lined up yet, but could run a secure it, then run a circular saw down it. I don't want it to be perfect, as I've been saying, so I think when this does get secured, if it isn't perfectly here, and if it's just a little bit off or whatever, I'm actually going to sand and round this edge so that it's not as sharp anyway, and sand the whole surface. Got to still get all the little staples and crap out of it. Got most of them, actually. If you look, all of these were actually removed by me, but obviously missed a bunch. So got this long piece. I think that this is going to be the skirting in the front. I think it makes sense to kind of cover that up, just dress it up a little bit more. And then I got the long piece in the back there, which is getting wet, actually. I think it's raining a little, but this will be the back piece, the backsplash, essentially. Took a little bit longer than I wanted it to. Didn't have as much good wood as I thought I did, but I think this is going to turn out quite nice. This is plenty of storage, plenty of space on top to do planting, and once I get it sanded, all the stuff, or get all the things out, then I'll give it a couple of sand. I'm not sure I'm going to attach it. Be best to attach from the bottom, keep this all clear. Problem being that this is such brittle wood. I'm actually trying to repair a couple of pieces right here that kind of got, and so much of the wood does look like this, with just gaps and holes on the bottom or cracking, that I don't think it's gonna work. I think I might have to do, I don't know, I can glue it, which would help, but I feel like I should do through this top. And if I'm doing it through the top, I salvaged, where are they? I just took two of them out earlier. There they are. So I quite love these, these, you can see square head nails. They're quite, I don't know what you'd call them, but they're very old. I have a whole box of those somewhere, which would be great to reuse it for this, so that I could just essentially nail through the top, and then that way they're not really super secured, and kind of adds to the aesthetic. I could maybe even try to just reuse some of the holes here. It doesn't really need to be super well secured, I don't think, but I think, yeah, so I'm going to start off by just trying to essentially, I think, get everything out of it. Probably put the backsplash on first, because I'm going to have to line up to that on the back, since I'm going to push it all forward and I'm doing the backsplash here. So I got to still make something to come up here and hold it. Which honestly, I'll probably just take one of these, one of the better pieces, and chop it down, and then use that. So, all right, back at it. Okay, change of plans. Got a little fall, late summer, not really a rainstorm, but a drizzle, a really beautiful one. I had to pull everything in. It was starting to get wet. Haven't had a chance to really clean up yet, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it a day here. I don't want to be sanding this in the garage, pushing all of the sawdust onto a wet lawnmower. It's just going to make a mess. Not too bad, actually. I did a really good job first going through doing all the bigger boards, last year or a year ago. The smaller ones, which I probably didn't really think I would be doing much with anyway, had a lot of little pieces on them. Everything seems to be good though now. I think a nice sanding, 10 minutes, just want to keep the character, just kind of get off all these like little sharp points, and I think it'll be good to go. I'm trying to debate. I think I'm going to connect everything first anyway, so maybe I'll do that right now. Well, I can't do the back piece until I cut the other pieces. I don't want to really cut the other pieces until I can move it back out of the garage for the dust. Maybe I'll figure out how to do this right now. I kind of want to get this going and done with. So, but regardless, I need to find all the other pieces. Shit. Could have sworn I'd put them in something like this originally, but there's nothing in this one, and there's nothing in this one. So I'm gonna have a hell of a time trying to find those pieces in this garage. That's completely an embarrassment. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, welcome team. It is a beautiful, beautiful hot day out, and we're gonna try to finish this up today. So I think I'm gonna start off by creating the rest of the pieces to secure that backboard, then really go ahead and just secure down all the boards. Still not sure how I'm gonna do that yet, but and then just probably go for sanding it. And then still have to figure out kind of the sideboards. I don't think I'm going to put any X's or diagonals in it. It's super strong right now. I think the kind of square is actually as strong as it needs to be. I'll reassess that once it moves. Maybe it'll loosen up once I move it into place and stuff. But asked the wife about, putting like a Danish oil or something on some of the pieces just to protect it a little bit. We just decided we'll get it in a place and see what we think, and maybe we'll paint it, maybe we'll stain it, who knows. So gonna go for it. Yeah. Okay, got the backsplash up. Just had a little piece of maple left over from another project, so I ripped three little pieces. Hopefully you can see that in the sun, just with the little chamfer at the top, just give it a little nicer bevel. It should be almost in line, maybe a little bit proud of below right there. So yeah, because it's going to be about maybe 1/4 of an inch proud, but that's okay. I really think I might have to just put this over the top. So I'm going to start on these. I did find the older flathead. So these are all of the screws that came out off of it. So most of them are the old iron screws. There's a couple of these older ones too that I actually kind of like, even kept just in case I wanted to reuse them. I think I'm going to just try to reuse these guys, the really old ones with the flat heads, the flat square heads. So I'm gonna test it out on a couple of boards, see how it does, but don't think I'm gonna glue, just in case I have to take them off or whatever. Maybe I'll end up having to glue them, we'll see, but I'm gonna I'm gonna drill a little bit of a hole, because this wood is just so old and so dry that unless I were to hit a screw spot, like you can see, this is already even cracking right here. I'm very, very worried about splitting this wood more. So I'm going to try to put all the crack pieces at the back too, so that the front is a little bit stronger. We'll see. Oh, I missed a little piece there. So I'm going to there we go, little piece. Can you see that? It's like I removed it from a person. So yeah, I'm gonna try to not get splinters, because this old wood is super splintery, but I'm gonna see if I can just not damage the wood any more than it really is, and I think I'm gonna go right to left, and then I'll trim down the last board, and then I still need to put a side piece on though, which makes me think. So if I were to have a side piece, could do something like this. That's actually almost perfect. But I could also do something more kind of like this if it was taller. So that kind of might be a little bit nicer, in case I want to cover the bottom. Well, let's see. This isn't going to really get a lot of... That looks nice, but there's not much to attach it to besides the end grain there. So I'm wondering... It would be way, way better if... See, I don't think I have those pieces, but... Let's just pretend like I had a big piece like this. It'd be better if I could just face the whole thing across here to here. That way it skirts it, which is nice. Yeah, see, that's what I want to do. So I think I might actually make this up out of a couple of pieces if I can, or maybe I'll try to see. I don't really have too many more of these wide pieces, so that's a little bit of a bummer. I guess I could. I don't know how weird this would be, but if I was to use I still have those two from the bottom that I could use. That's not terrible. Maybe angle? No. It's actually not terrible. So I think this is going to be the fallback, and maybe I'll just laminate two of these vertically, because if I was to do this, then this, that's a nice cover. So I think this is the fallback, and we'll see what else we have. So, gonna put it back on. And there's the little man, who is just loving being in the shade right there. Drop. Oh, good boy, buddy. Love you. All right, so this worked out pretty well, actually. So I used all these guys to sort out. These are the older, well, some of them are mixed in still, but these are the kind of the round, more modern heads. These are all the iron ones that are used. Basically just did two per middle support in this one. Very happy I did the middle support. The back support, I could have really squeaked away with getting another one there, but I thought it'd just be easier to just pilot drill a screw here. So this screw is actually holding the backsplash to each board. So it actually worked out pretty well. There's a couple of spots where it's, you know, the board's like definitely, you know, curving a little bit from age, and it's, you know, this one is going to be a little bit ish. This one probably more so. You can see it's kind of coming up on the left side. Creates a little bit of a ridge here. So I'm going to clear this off, move it out just a little bit, and I think what I'm going to do is just hit it with a light sander. I'm going to just try to kind of clean up the edge, this front edge here. This is, I think, one of the original boards I measured everything off of, actually. Just round it a little bit, get rid of the splinters, kind of knock down some of these sharper edges here, knock down some of the stuff like, you know, this type of crap here. And then pretty much just have to figure out the side panels, which, you know, I think I'm going to be able to figure out something. I still have a decent amount back there, not a ton. I have to make a, you know, maybe that's what this board will be used for. Actually, sorry, this is going to be the skirt that I forgot about in the front. So I still have to do the skirt. Yeah, and a couple other things. So I'm just going to set this up to basically just watch me sand for a little. You know, I'm not going to hit it too much. Don't want to really ruin too much of it. Just going to hit it so that it knocks stuff out. And I'm repeating myself. So here you go. Okay, can't remember where I last left it, but I'm really liking the way this is coming off. So I attached this skirt board. It's in the shadow. It's a little hard to see. Maybe you can see like that. Skirt board's attached. All these are attached. I only used nails. I probably should have glued this, but I used like 6 or 7 nails. So if this gets loose over time from, you know, pulling on it to move it or whatever, I'll just hit it with a couple of brass screws, I think. This guy, so this looks really nice. Not loving that I had to use like a cut edge on the top here. Is what it is. I didn't have a big enough piece to go from here all the way down to here, which is what I would have preferred. So I think what I'm going to do is see if I can maybe get a piece that fills into here, because this is shorter, so I think I have those. Fill that hole, and then I might do just a vertical piece right here. And then a vertical piece right here. That way the whole kind of top skirt is all kind of, you know, older looking. So we'll see if that works out. I'm going to try to put the other one on. I just use screws through the bottom here. Not really like super strong, but that's not something that, you know, I guess it is strong enough to move the table, but hopefully no one really yanks on it or else it will snap. But yeah, I'm liking the way it's turned out. I think my wife just got home. She looked at it. She had to jump on a call. I think she's happy with it, but yeah, I'm just going to keep going. So here we are the next day. Got the sun rising. Yeah, so here we are the next day. It fits. It looks good. So the original request was one that went the full side. I didn't have enough pieces for that, nor is that practical in my sense of. I think we're gonna probably put a hose hookup right here, so we don't have to kind of throw it over. So I'll actually be doing a hose hookup underneath and coming up out of the ground, and so that'd be perfect right there. I always thought that this would be along this way, so this is south facing, kind of where this bench is, but wife wants it over here. I think partially to like kind of block this. The former homeowner used to have a grill out here. That the other issue though that we have is we've got a really bad floor down there, so that's part of the reason why this is not level to that. That's in my list of things to fix. So it was supposed to line up like nicely like that right there, which is how it should be based on my measurements, but you can see the floor just is popping it up a little bit higher. So that's one of the things that I'll fix in the future. Honestly, it's not too heavy. All this wood is so dry that it's not super heavy. The one thing that did happen is my wife tried lifting, but she pulled on the side and the whole thing came up. Like this whole piece came up. It'd be nice if I could, do pocket holes or pocket jigs to pull that back down. But I think it is what it is. Once it's, it's not really super in there anymore, but I might hit it with a mallet just to get it back down. Plenty of storage. One of the things, so I was gluing this earlier, just trying to glue that piece together. So I was going to do the rougher board out, at least for the skirting, because I personally, as I've been saying, I like that better. But my wife wanted the smoother face, and I actually sanded it quite a bit, just because she'll be bumping up against this with her body, so she doesn't want to get splinters that much. But other than that, it's actually the sanding worked really well. Like I can do this with my hand, and I'm not super worried about any sort of stuff coming off of it, and that'll get better over time as more pots and stuff I think hit it. Overall I think it turned out pretty good. No big complaints really. I'm very happy that I got to use up so much of that old extra wood, and that's going to be the thing that you see from the street the most. And I really don't like those little things. But what are you gonna do? Oh, you can kind of see the floor, how it's messed up right there. It's popping up, so that's actually what's pulling the front ups. But yeah, anyway, so I think it's, if you're looking for an easy do it yourself, you really just need, you don't even need a table saw, but if you're using new wood, it would have been nice just to use maybe all this wood on the top. That would have worked perfectly fine, but really a chop saw or and screwdriver. That's about it. Not super complicated. It feels super rigid. Like I said, if I'm worried about the structure or anything, or if you are when you're building it, the easiest way would just to be put some cross braces, maybe from down here going up, and then do another one like that, just kind of making an X, or making just even just one of them would solid the whole thing up. But because you've got this 2x6 that's connected this way, it's really holding it back as a rigid frame. Really the weak point is going to be down here, where this is really the only connection and the only connection. So if anything ever happens, it would be because I think this would have broke. But for this to break, you really need these to break first, or have a lot of weight on them. So I think it's going to be okay. There's a lot more dressing up we could have done here, especially with the screws that are exposed from the wheels. It's kind of funny. The wheels that I used, two of them were left over, two of them were those bad ones that I actually took off because I didn't like the way they worked on another cart. And immediately, as soon as my wife's moving around, she's like, these wheels suck. So I might be replacing those with the better ones. I think the better ones are on the back. Can't remember, but if so, it's an easy fix. Just flip it over. Getting it in was quite the challenge. We barely got it in here, and because of those things on the bottom, right there, really the thresholds, everything became much more of a challenge. I should have waited to put those on the bottom. Oh, you can actually see, yeah, from moving it, you can see that they got kind of chipped up a little bit, which is fine. Would have been perfectly sized had these things not been on it. So these things actually pushed it out way closer. So I expected to have that much tolerance, and these actually caused it to not, well, it did fit, but when I'm telling you it was the exact size to fit, we couldn't have gotten anything even a 1/16 of an inch wider through. So we got really lucky there. I do think, for this spot, we would have just tossed it over one of these. It sounds silly to say, but it is not that heavy. It is, the boards on the bottom are really, really lightweight. If you've ever been to Home Depot, they're like, $2. They barely feel like anything. And even the wood on the top, the main weight here was in these, the 2x4s and the 2x6s. And even then, I chose really dry ones from the Home Depot. And so it's really not that bad. Maybe 100 pounds at most, 100. So yeah, who knows? But very pleased with it overall. If you do it, you can do it. Good luck. Yeah, just go for it, build stuff. And for us, when our roofers were doing the roof, all of that wood on the top was actually going to end up in the trash. I had to dumpster dive for it. A lot of it actually was in the trash. And then roofers finally said that they'd start putting the stuff off to the side if I wanted to do it before I threw it in the trash. So, it feels good to save something from the trash, get to reuse, not reuse, but, these brackets were never used for me, and it just feels good. So best of luck to you if you end up using this. And I will I'll maybe follow this up with just another quick video, or maybe I'll just throw the dimensions down in the description. I'll try to throw the dimensions in the description, and maybe I'll do a little bit video with the tape measure so you can see it in case you want it. I really do think that this is gonna be like perfect size for planting and all that. So I'm hoping she leaves a couple of plants up there year round, maybe like becomes kind of a rotating kind of, half of it is, or quarter of it is a couple of plants that she's growing from seeds or something, and then, extra pots and dirt, and then kind of a workspace. So we'll see. Hey everyone, thanks for getting to this point of the video. If you're still here, as my wife, which I'm not sure why I keep saying my wife, her name is Katie, while Katie's planting this and using it, just want to give you the dimensions real quick. So it is about 84 inches or 7 feet across total. So that's going to be the total width there. Of the older piece of board in the top. So that includes those little side splashes on the side as well. So that's 7 feet. So the workable area is right around 82 inches, so 6'10"-ish. The depth of the table there is 27 1/4. That doesn't include those little prongs that are holding up the backsplash. So in usable kind of, space on the top there, it's about 26 1/2 inches. And then if you're wondering about just kind of the overall height, right around 39 inches, so 3'3" is where that top kind of workspace is. I found it personally, I'm almost 6 foot. I found it basically the perfect height. Katie didn't have any complaints about it, so I think it's a really good work table height. And that leaves the bottom storage with a little bit above 2 feet, about 2 foot, 2.5 of an inch, so 24 1/2 inches on the bottom for storage of the pots and pans. So good luck if you attempt this. If you have any questions, leave a comment, and I'll do my best to help you out. Cheers.